Well damn! There was no way in hell Hyrule could be saved after selling 31 million copies. Nintendo struck gold with this new Breath of the Wild format. It was widely praised, holding the largest number of perfect review scores of 2017, and took the title of Game of the Year. Fast forward 6 years later, its sequel was announced, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I suspect Nintendo knew this was going to be a hit and intentionally left mysteries unsolved, such as, what is the ancient Zonai race? And that's exactly where it picks up. Link and Zelda exploring the underbelly of Hyrule, uncovering the mysteries of this Zonai. But rather than answers, they find a mummified Ganon that reawakens, separating the two and draining Link of his power. For whatever reason, he wakes up borderline naked, not that I'm complaining, and with someone else's arm. Due to the Demon King's revival, there was a huge upheaval. Large chasms opened, Hyrule Castle rose from its root, and Link finding himself on floating ruins. Zelda's allegedly gone missing, and yet on the surface there are reports of people seeing her. Still, something wicked this way comes, and you're tasked with looking for Zelda, but checking in on other races, requesting their assistance on the search for Zelda. Much like the first game, rather than having an interesting story, it has interesting lore. Things like the Zonai, the tale of the first king of Hyrule, and the imprisoning war. The lore is expanded upon through glyphs, seeking out the tier within them, and you're rewarded with a piece of lore. Love this, love the whole tier theme, it's beautiful. My only word of caution here is they can be found out of order, spoiling the other tiers. I wish no matter what glyph you found first, it was the next scene in the tale for more fluid storytelling. Fear not though, you can go back and review any cutscenes in their proper order. But what we're really here for is, what's different? Did Tears of the Kingdom add or play differently enough to be a sequel, or is it just massive DLC? Things that most people loved about Breath of the Wild are still present, and complaints have been addressed. Much like Breath of the Wild, there is a tutorial area where you get specific powers right from the start. Tears of the Kingdom's newest tools for exploration are Ultra Hand, a power that allows you to move and connect objects. This allows you to craft rafts, wagons, cars, and various other constructs. Fusion allows you to fuse various objects into your weapon and shields, raising attack, durability, or giving your item a magical property. This was extremely fun to experiment with, giving various ways to traverse and slay your enemies. This was also an incredible way to address the weapon durability issue. Yes, weapons still break, but I found most of the weapons lasted way longer when I fused them. There are several times I had too many weapons and I spent a lot of time trying to break them. The most satisfying power, and my favorite, Ascend. This allows Link to effortlessly swim through ceilings. The time it saves is incredible. Once I got this power, I never took stairs or ladders again if I could help it. And lastly, Recall, which allows you to turn back time on certain objects. Later, other functions are unlocked like auto building, which you could miss and uncover when you're 200 hours into the game like yours truly. If you're worried about burning out on building things, worry no longer. This feature does it for you. Plus, you could save your favorites or pull from your history. Now that you're equipped with the tools for exploration, you're given a huge world riddled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Lots have returned like Korok puzzles, fitting blocks to match or yanking them out of their hiding spot. Yiga clan banana traps, assisting the citizens of Hyrule with side quests, and of course, shrine hunting. And let me tell you, there are a lot of shrines, 32 more than the last game. And I'm happy to say they're so much better this time around. Gone are those stupid gimmicky rotating ones from Breath of the Wild. The puzzles were actually fun. It felt like a tutorial of look at what you can do in this world. You definitely want to be hunting these down, because this is how you increase your hearts and stamina. Pro tip, increase your stamina first, I'm telling you. You'll be doing a lot more exploring than you will fighting. Be on the lookout for armor, hidden throughout all the lands, or some found via amiibo. Armor is not only for defensive measures, but some come with extra effects, like keeping Link warm during cold, or faster climbing, faster swimming, etc. These can be upgraded 4 times by Great Fairies. You'll absolutely want to invest in this because enemies swing hard. In the beginning, I really struggled with this, especially because I was very combative, and I forgot this game has a hidden leveling system. You'll notice enemies have different color variations symbolizing their difficulty. Should you get beat up a lot, invest in cooking. Mix and match different ingredients for extra health and special effects. Another thing you'll want to upgrade are your energy wells. These dictate how long some Zonai devices will last. How to do that is mining zonite and manufacturing them into crystallized charges, and 100 of those convert into energy wells. Hestu is back. Give him Korok seeds and he'll expand either your melee weapon, shield, or bow inventory. Naturally, his cost grows with each expansion. Upgrading the Pura Pad, which will allow you to see your path, take pictures to fill out the Hyrule Compendium, a sensor that detects nearby shrines, and you can later customize your sensor to detect certain items and enemies. Very helpful for grinding materials. And lastly, travel medallions, which are points the player can set to instantly travel back to. You'll see there's a lot to upgrade. Many additional things to do have been added as well, like meet Addison, who needs your support. Use Ultra Hand to cleverly hold up signs without it falling. You can now get 2 Korok seeds at once by guiding one Korok to another. By far my least favorite quests. I'm very pro burn the Koroks. Bubble Frogs are special enemies that drop unique gems that someone in Hyrule is surely collecting. Instead of Sheikah Towers, there are Sky Towers. These, however, launch you into the sky, which is significantly smaller, but still an explorable map. There are several islands to fly to, many you'll have to get creative about reaching. Here, there are some other challenges like falling through hoops, or another least favorite, transporting a crystal. I really like to think Tears of the Kingdom is a play on words, because there are literal tiers of the kingdom. We have the top tier, the sky level, Hyrule, the middle, and the bottom tier, known as the depths. Chasms are found all throughout Hyrule, spots oozing with gloom that you can fall into. It's the pitch black underbelly of Hyrule, littered with monsters covered in gloom. Gloom doesn't just damage Link, it breaks his hearts, meaning they cannot be restored unless met with light. The depths are a dark place, untouched by the sun, so you can see how dangerous it is. Thankfully, the depths aren't without a safe haven, light roots. You'll want to light these bad boys up, to light up a stretch of land within the depths, to be able to see where you're going and restore any broken hearts. The depths are so easy to get lost in. I spent hours there just exploring and uncovering things, probably earlier than I was supposed to. Now let's talk about the big changes Nintendo made. Nintendo heard fans loud and clear. We want real dungeons and real bosses. And they delivered. These dungeons, sure, were easy, but most importantly, they were fun and a refreshing twist on the Zelda formula we all know and love. Before you'd find an item in a dungeon, use that item to help solve that dungeon, cool. Well now, most of the descendants of the last game will join you, and you'll have to use their custom power to help complete the dungeon. Now this could be expanded upon because you don't really use their power to solve the dungeon's puzzles. It's still all you, but then there is a battery or something that needs to be charged or addressed, and then you use their power to do that. But getting to the battery lock, whatever, it's all you. Dungeon difficulty could have been elevated if you used your companion's powers to actually resolve puzzles, rather than move, recharge, etc. the goal. So what I'm saying is, instead of a new item, we get Sidon, my prince, my love, my everything. I also never thought I'd say this, but the water dungeon was by far my favorite dungeon. Zelda has a history with having the worst water dungeons. Also, we get real bosses that utilize our companion's strength. Yes, like the dungeons, bosses are incredibly easy and unthreatening, but at its core, it was still fun to take down a big bad. Nintendo gave us more characters we love and new abilities. In addition, after beating a boss, you're granted an avatar of that particular character to travel with you going forward. Essentially, for the first time, Link will have a whole party of characters, and while it does get cumbersome, you can toggle them on and off at any time. It is a little sad that you get their avatars and not the characters themselves, but I'll take what I can get. Admittedly, the avatars aren't super useful in battle. Don't get me wrong, they do damage, they help, but when you have all of them, it becomes rather crowded and you end up selecting a descendant's power that you didn't mean to and it throws combat off. Or you try to run to them and they run away from you, like, come back, I'm trying to use your power. I really enjoyed the openness and creativity that Tears of the Kingdom brought, especially Zonai devices, because they were low-key cheats and shrines. If you were properly equipped, you didn't necessarily have to play by the shrine's rules. As long as you used the Zonai Gacha machine, you'd have all the Zonai materials you could ever want. I'm very impressed with the physics and aerodynamics and how well it worked. I never felt cheated. If something didn't hold, move correctly, I could identify why. The extra testing of this game's physics paid off. I was amazed. Traveling the world was easy with immediate fast travel. The mapping was excellent, allowing the player to pin objectives and leaving stickers to unique landmarks or enemies. The graphics haven't been improved much since Breath of the Wild, and they honestly didn't need to be. I like the graphic style, and I'm a sucker for cel shading. I love how emotive this game is, like when it's cold, Link shivers, when it's raining, NPCs react, even their dialogue changes. There's so much life built into this game. At most, the worst thing is some frame rate drops, especially if there's a lot going on screen, multiple enemies, multiple avatars, the grass is on fire, then yeah. But that was few and far between. I'm also loving all the Zelda callbacks, from the name locations, weapons, armors, goddess statues, and of course, the music. It would be criminal if we did not hear the new renditions of classic Zelda songs. They're littered throughout if you listen closely. Zora's Domain is one of my favorites. It's a very mellow take. Even when cooking, Link hums a riff to a classic. Music changes based on means of travel, if you're falling, riding a horse, or moving on foot. Day and night themes of caves, towns. Each tier has different day and night music. They went crazy with a pretty low-key, relaxing, piano-centered musical score. Dungeon music had phases the closer you got to unlocking the boss room, and it had head nods to Breath of the Wild's champion themes, and frankly, past dungeons. Nintendo could have easily copied and pasted every track from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, but instead they made new tracks that incorporate elements from the old tracks. While I do think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have some of the weakest musical scores, I appreciate they still took the extra mile to create new music. That said, my favorite track I still think has to be in the very beginning. The closer you get to the mummified Ganon, the music becomes distorted. I think I'm going to share the prologue music with you despite Zelda's Lullaby being my actual favorite. It's just so incredibly beautiful, but it's something you just have to experience in the game. So without further ado, my favorite track. So is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom just glorified DLC? My answer is a resounding no. We're treated to a smorgasbord of new content, like a brand new story, drastically different mechanics, fun dungeons, new monsters, engrossing side quests, 2 extra maps, a multitude of rearranged musical scores, and many new characters. So in no way would I describe this as DLC. While Tears of the Kingdom does reuse assets from Breath of the Wild, I call it being resourceful. After all, expanding a world doesn't mean you have to dramatically change it. You could simply build upon it, or under it. But there are plenty of new secrets to dive into with Tears of the Kingdom, a refreshing experience built on the foundations of a game that's already won over many of our hearts. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my review of Breath of the Wild here, and a video on one of my favorite Zelda titles, Link's Awakening. Please consider supporting me on Patreon, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!